In a world where sports have stretched beyond the fabric of reality and podcasts became as common as potholes, there were two guys in Morgantown, West Virginia who desired to do something different. These two guys came up with an idea to bring real life back to the arena of sports and hopefully be somewhat entertaining along the way. These two guys are certainly no experts, and they're definitely not comedians. They just think they are. This is the Extra Medium Podcast, and here are those two guys.
And here we go. Welcome, everyone, to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Extra Medium Sports Podcast. We came up with the name because usually me and Matt are just two plus-size guys living in an extra medium world. Today, Matt has the flu.
Yes.
Could not join us. So in my co-chair here, partner in crime chair, we have Michael Griffith, sports insider from the Dominion Post. Michael, welcome, and thank you for filling in for Matt today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope you feel better soon, Matt.
Michael, we have a lot of odds and ends to discuss today, including a Morgantown High man and Curt Cignetti, former Morgantown High quarterback, just led the Indiana Hoosiers to their first ever football national championship Monday night. 27-21 victory against Miami on Monday night.
Yes.
Morgantown High guy there.
Yeah, we also have another successful Morgantown High man on the coaching trail who will be joining us a little later in the show. Morgantown High boys basketball head coach Dave Tallman will be joining us. Tallman and the Mohegans are currently 10-0 this season, shooting for their fifth state title since 2016.
So we got a Morgantown High show today.
You know, it's heavy Mohegans on the schedule today.
That's fine. We went with the Hawks last week. Go with the Mohegans this week. Before we get into all of that, Michael, tell them who sponsors the show.
Glad you asked. The Extra Medium Sports Podcast is brought to you by The Hotel Morgan. Whether you are interested in hosting a sophisticated corporate retreat, a joyful baby shower, or a spectacular wedding reception, Hotel Morgan provides a backdrop steeped in nearly a century of Morgantown history. Reimagined with boutique comfort and a 1920s-era charm, we take pride in making every event a memorable and stylish experience.
And, Michael, where can you find our little podcast?
You can always find a link to the Extra Medium Sports Podcast at www.dominionpost.com or find us on social media at Spotify and on YouTube.
All right, Michael, before we get into the whole Curt Cignetti National Championship angle here, now, you were obviously sick last week.
Yeah, I know.
I think you must have gave it to Matt.
You know,
right? Yeah.
through the phone or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
On last week's show, we had University High wrestling coach Ken Mizell on the show. We had a great time talking with him.
Yeah, I love listening to that.
Yeah, he's a pretty damn good guy. He told us basically, he told the story basically about his 30-year journey building up the University High wrestling team into the state power that it now is, going after its third consecutive state title. As we were talking to him, as we were signing off last week, it pretty much came to my mind that, there was like 50 other things that we could have talked to him about. So we're going to try to have Coach Mizell on a little bit later in the show, maybe when we get closer to the state wrestling tournament. Yeah. But there is one thing I kind of wanted to discuss, and I'm glad you're here today because you can help me out on this. The one thing that has stuck with me about what Coach Mizell has done at University High, we didn't get a chance to discuss this last week. He built that program from scratch, but not only did he build it from scratch, the point that sticks with me is that he built it with his guys, with University High guys. And what I mean by that, and certainly in the current time that we're in,
right?
I mean, it's so easy to get, transfers and guys to move into, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And, you could call it recruiting or, whatever it is you want to call it, the transfer portal or whatever. Coach Mizell did not go out to Ohio and start grabbing guys there and bringing them in. He didn't go out to Pennsylvania, start grabbing guys from there.
Up to Connellsville, yeah, right.
And obviously, Ohio and Pennsylvania, as far as high school wrestling goes, are two, recruiting havens for college. So obviously, the sport is much bigger in those two states than it is certainly here in West Virginia. Coach Mizell didn't do that. He kept building. He built up the youth MAC club, got that going. Got it going at the middle school level, started getting more kids to come out and started to develop. So he developed his kids over a course of time, which is really the storybook fashion of how you would want to build a program.
Yeah.
Rather than just going out and say, okay, hey, we'll, come to our school, you can be a star, so on and so forth.
100%.
Now, he does, and over the course of 30 years, and this is the part I wanted to get with you on, is he does have a transfer this year, right?
Yes.
Over the course of 30 years, he's had one transfer come in, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, that's
to my knowledge. Yeah.
That's pretty. I mean, to me, that's a pretty amazing fact. Now, tell me a little bit about the kid came in from Fairmont Senior this year.
Yeah,
right?
so I will. And I think that this is just the definition of from the ground up, if you will, when it comes to Mizell building his wrestling program. And one thing I wanted to kind of point out is we will talk to Dave Tallman today about his basketball program, and he's also kind of, in 10 years, not built it from the ground up, but, steadily built to where he is now. But when it comes to wrestling, Ken talks about last week, he specifically mentioned the first thing that we did was go straight to our middle school program.
Yeah.
Basketball, this isn't downing basketball at all, but, basketball coaches, they don't really have to do that as much. When it comes to basketball, and Ken said this on the podcast too, your 6-year-old, you're putting them in basketball to play bitty ball. You're not putting them in wrestling programs when they first get into sports. You're not, you're doing soccer, you're doing basketball, you're doing all the main sports, stuff like that. So a lot of the basketball higher, prep programs, college preparatory program, they're not having to worry as much about getting into those lower systems, making sure you're showing up every time for those middle school games, making sure you have a hand in all that. But Ken speaks about having to do that specifically, and he speaks about that specifically for impacting the success of his program. And I think that's what really stood out to me, and I think that people don't really grasp that yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then, talking more about Max Fortier, who is the wrestler you alluded to from Fairmont Senior. He came in this year to the Hawks, one of the best wrestlers in the state last year for Fairmont Senior, and he's also proving that he's one of the best in the state this year as well. He went out to the Powerade tournament a few weeks ago and won his weight class, brought the title back home. I think he wrestled. You asked me too quickly. I want to say 175.
Okay, so
he's or 168. It's somewhere around there.
He's not one of those little dudes running.
No. He's not. He's not. And man, he's not the only one they have, obviously. But Max Fortier is absolutely. I think he's ranked number one in his weight class in the state right now. So he'll have a big opportunity to take home a state title individually and help the Hawks to their third consecutive team title if they can. Get there in Huntington, so
that was just something that was on my mind after we talked with Ken last week. Is just the fact that how he went about building the program, and he really did it, brick by brick.
Right,
brick.
That's a great one.
He did it with his kids, and that's something. Again, kudos to Coach Mizell, who's going for his third state championship in wrestling this year. Now, Kurt Signetti. Michael, did you catch that game Monday night?
I did. I caught it. It was great game of football to watch. Great national championship. Both teams had chances to win it, and Indiana came out on top.
Now think about this: a former Morgantown High quarterback just won a national championship.
Yeah.
Does that that statement in itself kind of blows my mind, right?
It blows my mind, but it also blows my mind to think about him doing it in the same year that the Morgantown High School football team won a state title. So it's a good time to be involved in the MHS football network right now, if you'll say that. So
for those who might not be 100% familiar with Kurt Signetti and who he is, he was actually born in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
His family moved to Morgantown when he was in the third grade. So we're talking about 1970, 1971, early 1970s. His father, of course, Frank Signetti, he was first hired as an assistant coach at WVU for football.
Okay.
Later became the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He was the head coach before the Don Nealon era began at WVU. So he basically grew up in Morgantown from the third grade on, goes to Morgantown High, becomes a star quarterback at Morgantown High in the late 1970s, and then he played football at WVU. So he is a WVU grad who was a backup quarterback for the Mountaineers, and we're talking about the Oliver Luck, Jeff Hostetler type era when he was at the school. So he's kind of a WVU man through and through, who just won a national championship for a school that was a basketball school.
And now they might be a football school because Indiana, man, I mean, what can you say? I'll hit you with this stat. Indiana has only won 6 bowl games in their school's history, and 3 of them came this season.
Yeah.
6 in their history. In 125 years, Indiana has won 6 bowl games. half of those wins came in the last 19 days. 125 years, and you doubled it in 19 days. And it's only his second year at the school. He comes over from JMU a year ago, comes to Indiana, has a pretty good season. Indiana was pretty competitive last year. And then obviously the transfer portal, they hit it hard. They got some good players, the Heisman quarterback trophy this year. Heisman Trophy quarterback this year, who also played a very good game last night. So just what a coach that he's been, and he's also been on a steady up and up for a while, and now he's at the top of the college football playoff pyramid, I guess you could say.
What was your take on the game? I thought Indiana, it wasn't domination.
Right.
I obviously thought that Miami's strategy throughout the course of the season has been to run the football, play power football, throw the ball here and there,
stop you on defense.
Yeah, and stop you on defense and get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
What Curt Cignetti did, I think the adjustments, because obviously Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner, was getting hit. They were getting after him in the first half.
Yeah.
And the adjustments they made in the second half, now obviously they got helped with the blocked punt.
Right, yep.
But the adjustments made in the second half, Mendoza was able to move around a little bit more, and their offense got going in the second half.
Yeah, he scored that touchdown. It was like a 20-yard rushing touchdown where he kind of shook free, and then he took a pretty good lick going into the end zone there, too. I think somebody texted me and was like, what is it with these Morgantown High football coaches? They're like, running their quarterbacks. But, there were a lot of plays, Indiana has some great receivers who obviously made some good plays, and they can make plays down the field. But a lot of their the just damage was just those chunks. They had a lot of 5 to 6 yard little stop routes that they were throwing to the sidelines that they were getting 6-7 yards on, and then there were a few plays where the Miami defense just was not tackling well. I forget what play it was or when it was. I forget when it was.
Yeah.
But there was a play that Indiana originally was called a touchdown on. Their player stepped out of bounds.
Oh, at the 6-yard line.
Yes,
right,
yeah. But Kirk Herbstreit on the broadcast was pointing out one of the Miami defensive players because he just gave up on the tackle.
No, he whiffed.
So it was like he hit the guy and just fell down and was like, all right, well, I'm going to let him score. So I just, both teams did things well. Both teams did things not well. But in the end, Indiana made a couple extra plays. Like you said, that blocked punt was just not only huge for the score at the time, but the momentum at the time, everything like that. So just a great national championship game. And I'm curious, was Indiana plagued by winning, their last few playoff games by so many points? You think they were ready for
I think they were ready for anything.
Yeah, I guess. They obviously were ready for anything after they won. But do you think that hurt them a little bit? The fact that they hadn't really played a competitive game in the college football playoff up until that point.
I think if you're better, you're better. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah.
Obviously, it is a great reason for the Mountain State itself to be celebrating today because of the success of Curt Cignetti, one of our own here. And obviously, we're going to be talking to Dave Tallman here in just a bit. But the fact that, like I said, Curt Cignetti, like you mentioned, he wins a national championship the same year Morgantown High wins a state football championship.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're going to have Dave Tallman on here a little bit later. The Mohegans may win a basketball championship. This year, could it be? It might be the year of the Mohegans.
Yeah, and we talked about, I think every single athletic sport in the fall at Morgantown High School ended their season at the state tournament level. So volleyball, girls and boys soccer, cross country, you name it, whatever sport you could think of at Morgantown High School, they qualified at least. And if some of them won, volleyball and cross country, girls cross country obviously took home state titles. But every single sport that was fielded in the fall when it came to athletics at Morgantown High School qualified for the state tournament level and ended their season at that level. So that's pretty. You're not going to find maybe another school all year that'll do that in one season.
The year of the Mohegans, I said it. All right. Michael, I'll tell you what. Before we get into our discussion with Coach Tallman, would you tell our good people who our sponsor is?
Yeah, absolutely. The Extra Medium Sports Podcast is brought to you by the Hotel Morgan. Host your guests in an elegant setting utilizing our refined meeting spaces, including 2 dedicated boardrooms and state-of-the-art conference technology. Elevate your event with delicious catering and craft cocktail service delivered by our on-site cafe and bar, Anvil and Axe.
It's now time to hear from Morgantown High boys basketball coach Dave Tallman. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Good.
We got Michael Griffith in here with us, and Coach, you guys are currently 10-0 and gunning for your 5th state championship. Tell me a little bit about the 10-0 start. It's a good start. What's this team been like to work with so far?
Well, they've been great. I don't think we're playing our best basketball as of yet. Yesterday was pretty good, putting up 115. Finally we made some shots, but they're just a great group of kids, young men. Couldn't ask for anything better. They work extremely hard. They're great in the classroom. They're great on and off the court. And we've got some youth, and I just think they're going to continue to get better and better. They're just going to continue to learn every day, and their attitude's in the right place.
The Mohegans won last night on Monday night, 115-44 against Expression Prep Academy, which is located down in Huntington, right?
Yes.
Where did you guys find those guys? Is that a new school, or how did that all come about?
Well, a lot of teams in the SSAC play them. They're the Huntington Prep of old. It's their high school version. It's not their their prep version. So a lot of teams played them this year. A lot of the scores were a lot closer than what we did yesterday, but I think it was just something where everything just started to click. Our presses really hurt them, and like I said, we made shots, and when we make shots, we're capable of scoring 100 points. Once the ball goes in, then it helps us get in our presses, and I think everything just kind of clicked last night.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, you talked about you guys haven't been playing your best ball, but you guys are so deep, and you talked about the youth that you guys have. Not only do you have youth, but you have youth that contributes, which is even better, right? So just talk about, I know that having 10 to 13 players, I've seen games this year where you've played 12 players in the first quarter of games. So, what are the pros and the cons of that? Obviously it's awesome to have that many guys come off the bench and be able to contribute, but I think at some point it's got to be a little hectic for you as a coach, right?
Yeah, to your first point, we are pretty young. We have, obviously we have, 4 amazing seniors in Cam Kellogg, Waylon Callistra, Marcus Goins, and Jaden Smalls. They're wonderful guys and good players, but we are playing a lot. We play 5 sophomores a lot of minutes. Mm-hmm. And then, Colin Ridgway, Max Fry, and those guys, they're juniors. So, like I said, there's a big learning curve right now. We're trying to get everybody on the same page. Playing that many guys, I'm sure sometimes our guys don't like it because of their minutes. But, if you look at the averages and things of our team, when you have 4 to 5 guys a night scoring double figures, on the regular, that's not typical around the state. So you're getting a lot more possessions. On an average, we're getting 25 more possessions a game than we did last year.
Wow.
So, the guys they're buying into it. The biggest thing is getting them to play, every possession like it's the last 2 minutes of the game. I think we did that yesterday. I don't think we did that at University High. We were a little hesitant. I think Parkersburg South we were a little hesitant. They just got to get in that mindset that I've got to play as hard as I can when I'm out there because I may only be out there for 2-3 minutes and then, come back in and be fresh, and that really wears on our opponents.
Yeah. We are on the line with Morgantown High boys basketball coach Dave Tallman. The Mohegans currently number 3 in the coaches poll in the state behind GW and Spring Mills. And, Coach, when I looked at that top 10 this morning that just came out, Class Quad A is wide open, right? There's probably – 3, 4, 5 teams that have a legitimate shot to win it this year?
Yeah, I think GW right now, they're really good. They're probably the one everybody's gunning for. Noah Lewis is an unbelievable player, and he's got great players around him. So, they're really tough. And then Spring Mills brings back, a couple great players from their state championship run last year, and they've got as much talent as anybody. I know our guys will be a little perturbed that, the coaches dropped us the spot this week. But it's a tough call. I think, like you said, there's a lot of great teams out there. We've been, like I said, we haven't even come close to hitting our peak yet. Like I kind of joked one day after the Park South game, like, you should see us in practice.
Yeah.
We really light it up in practice, and hasn't really happened in a game. It happened last night finally. So, our guys are putting the work in, and once that ball starts dropping, because we have a lot of capable shooters, a lot of great shooters. Once that ball starts dropping, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Coach, do you get to vote in that poll?
Yeah, we do get a vote. Yep.
You get you got to fix that, man, right? All you got to.
I'll tell you this. I'm always, I'm a big believer, as Billy Hahn used to say, in the basketball god. So I always vote, whether it's the regional, state, or I always vote, what I think is right. I never try to finagle things. I know others do. I've been told every year when we go to the state tournament that other coaches call one another and try to finagle things, but I never get a part of that. But it's amazing how we always end up playing Wheeling Park or Parkersburg South.
Yeah.
Or, some of our rivals every year.
We're all about finagling things here, Coach. We're all for that. Hey, Coach.
Maybe they should let you guys vote.
There you go. Hey, I wanted to get into your background a little bit. You came to Morgantown in 2014. Is that correct?
My first season, 2014, 2015 was my first season.
And you came from the Washington, D.C. area. You coached at St. Mary's Riken, which is just outside of D.C., right?
Yes.
And you had the pleasure of coaching John Flowers back in the day, former WVU standout. What was that like?
I did. We don't have enough time to talk about John Flowers stories. I was blessed. Like, I got to coach in the D.C. Catholic League, which is the best league in the country. Got to coach against guys like Kevin Durant and Victor Oladipo, and the list goes on and on. So I don't usually get easily intimidated going into a game, with our scouting reports and things. But no, John was the first guy. We took over the program. They were terrible, to say the least. And John was the first guy that, you're allowed to recruit down there. And John was our first recruit that we landed. And once we got him, the things started to roll. The year before we got there, they had lost to Bishop O'Connell by 80 and 90 points. And then 2 years later, we beat them twice. So that was kind of he was the biggest piece, probably looking back on it, of my career. If he didn't decide to come to St. Mary's Riken, who knows what would have happened. But, John and I are still friends to this day. He's still around Morgantown. I saw him coaching, I think it was like 6-year-old girls basketball on Saturday. My niece was playing. So, John and I go way, way back and have a terrific relationship.
I am extremely curious. How do you game plan for Kevin Durant in high school? Do you just throw up a big question mark on the game plan, or what?
Well, John guarded him.
Okay.
As you know, John Flowers was a defensive All-American at WVU.
Yeah.
And Kevin Durant had 37 3/4 against John Flowers.
Wow.
So, it's hard. I mean, he was. They would throw him an alley-oop, or he would stop the 3-point line and shoot the three. So, and his point guard was Grievous Vasquez, who had a long career in the NBA as well. So they were pretty good. They were number one in the country, and they beat us pretty good.
Was he still was it in high school? Was he 6'9"? Was he 6'10"? How big was he back then?
He was. Well, he says he's not a 7-footer, and I'd say he was. Yeah, I mean, he was huge. I mean, I would say he was every bit of 6'11", 120 pounds. I mean, he was just as thin as a rail, a lot like he is now.
Yeah.
But, just an unbelievable player.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, obviously, did you have any part in, what was your connection with John and him coming to WVU? Did he approach you about WVU? Did he ask you about Morgantown at all or anything? Like, what was that like for him?
Yeah, for sure. So Danny Sancombe, who's the coach at Cal U up in PA, great Division II program. He was the head coach. I was the assistant at the time. So that's Eli Sancombe's dad. So I actually babysat Eli as an infant. I lived with those guys. So, yes. So John, we had a great relationship with Coach Beeline, and I run a lot of Coach Beeline's offense to this day. And he was a great mentor of mine. I always worked the camps and things. So, John was kind of over in D.C. There's a lot of great players.
Yeah.
And he was kind of overlooked a little bit when we got him. So Coach Beeline was one of our first calls, and as soon as he saw John, he fell in love with his game, and John actually committed to Coach Beeline, not Coach Huggins.
Right. Yeah, good point.
But yeah, I mean, when he went on his visits to other places, the assistants and things would pick him up and show him around. And when John came to WVU, Coach Beeline was the one that was, showing him around town. And his mom, who was an All-American, said, John, I think you may need to pay attention that the boss man there is the one that's giving you the attention. The other places, it was the assistants, and that's pretty much when it was decided.
Yeah,
Coach. Over the years, I know you've built a pretty good friendship with Bob Huggins, the former WVU coach. How did that all come about? Did you know him when you were still in D.C., or did that all come about once you got to Morgantown?
So a couple of things happened there. Number one, John Flowers was committed to WVU and to Coach Beeline. And then when Coach Beeline left and Coach Huggins came in, Coach Huggins came down, met with John. So the relationship kind of started then. And then my assistant coach who I hired was David Kiefer, who's now the head coach at Southeast Louisiana. He was Coach Huggins. I think he was his GA or student assistant at Cincinnati, and then became his GA at Kansas State. And our league was, so well respected that he wanted to actually coach. So he came and was my assistant at Riken. So that's when my relationship with Coach Huggins really, flourished and took off. Was when the relationship with David.
Basketball is a small world, isn't it?
Oh, very, yeah. And then David Kiefer's from Tampa, Florida. His dad's the CEO and president of Hooters, and so his dad and Hugs were friends. And then David's head basketball coach in high school, Randy Schumann, is now currently my dad's assistant at Magnolia. So
wow.
Figure all that out.
Yeah. Coach, you mentioned Danny Sancom, who obviously, like you said, was the head coach there at St. Mary's Riken that you took over for. He's now at Cal PA. He obviously previously coached in Wheeling. He's kind of making some nice moves for himself in college. Was that ever an option for you? Did you ever want to maybe follow him into the college ranks or get into the college ranks yourself?
I've had some opportunities. I mean, first of all, Danny's like, I owe Danny a lot.
Yeah.
And my dad are my two major mentors. We talk all the time. But, when Danny left Wheeling Jesuit, I just finished my playing career, and I, could have stayed at Wheeling possibly. But then Danny he said, man, let's go down. I want to take you to this DC Catholic League. It's the best basketball in America, and I think it would really help us in our careers. And if we can win there, then we can win anywhere. And so he did that. He was the head coach for 2 to 3 years, and then he left, and I took over as the head coach in the best league in America when I was 25. So
wow,
yeah.
It's kind of a heck of a story there. But
good luck, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had phone calls. I've had different opportunities and things. People have reached out. But I really like my job at Morgantown. My son's in 7th grade right now, and people have been good to me. Besides the high school teaching salary, that could be better, but everything else is terrific. So I would never leave unless it was just a job that I couldn't say no to.
Yeah.
Michael, you also might know that Coach Tallman in the past has worked with Best Virginia and the TBT. Now that's coaching professionals. What were those experiences like, Coach? And obviously getting to work with John Flowers again, but other WVU greats like Kevin Jones, and the list goes on and on there.
Yeah, it was amazing. I said I did 5 years of that, and it was a great experience. John asked me every year to be the head coach. I continue to decline. Jared did a great job this past year. James Long did an amazing job. So I really, when you're a head coach, even at my level, you're on constantly. You never get a break mentally.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to take on that. And plus, I didn't really have the relationship with those guys, I would just be some high school guy coming in and trying to tell pros what to do. So I wanted to get my feet wet, and I really enjoyed it, especially early. Like, I have great relationships now and friendships with Deshaun Butler and Nathan Adrian and, those guys, Kevin Jones. I mean, I can't say enough good things about those people. Jawan Staten. I mean, it was incredible. And what you find when you do that is, those guys aren't great by mistake. Those guys live in the gym. I can tell you a story when Eric Stevenson hit the game winner in Wheeling the next day. We had an optional shoot around, and I rebounded for him for about an hour and a half, and he was in there the next day. So
wow,
you get to see why the great ones are great. There's no secret to it, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Like, I've been a head coach since I was 25, so I kind of created my own language, and I got to learn kind of the universal language on different defensive coverages and offensive things, and it was a big help, and I give James Long a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
Coach, what was it, just the atmosphere of coaching professionals? You would think, or I would think, it's kind of a night and day experience compared to coaching high school kids. But but you also hear the term, basketball is basketball. So where do you kind of fit in with that? Was it a completely different experience coaching professionals as opposed to high school athletes?
Not as much as you would think. No, not really. The one thing that was difficult is those guys, that was their off season. So you're asking them to play basketball during their off season. So, they had other agendas, other things they wanted to do and go see family and things. So it was always hard to get, like, the whole team together, for practices and things like that. So that was different. I would say the biggest difference is, like, right now I talk to my assistants every day, like, man, our basketball IQ is just not where it needs to be. And then you got to remember theyese kids are 15, 16 years old when you're coaching Nathan Adrian and these guys. I mean, their IQ is through the roof. They're so smart, and you don't have to X and O everything. You just kind of you have to get them in the right position to make the right plays, because they will. So it was a little different. I mean, it was more their IQ was off the charts, and high school kids are just, they're at their infant stages of learning the game. So that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, Coach, you kind of alluded to playing, and you won a championship with your dad at Magnolia when you were a player there. But I know you've done it multiple times as a coach, but can you kind of talk about the differences in doing it as a player and then doing it as a coach? Is one harder than the other? Obviously, that year, when you've done it as a coach at Morgantown, you guys have always been, one of the favorites coming in. And when you were at Magnolia as a player, you guys were not. So just kind of talk about that, winning state titles as a player and then as a coach. And, how difficult is it really to do to win a state title in the state?
Well, in 2000, man, they couldn't. Kurt Signetti said last night, you can make a movie. You could definitely make a movie about that. We were 10 and 11. Magnolia had not won a state title since like '64. They hadn't won a sectional in like 27 years. A sectional game. They had not won a postseason game in like 27 years. And we were just a bunch of misfits that played together at Bruce Park all the time. And my dad coached us since we were in third grade, and we just got hot at the right time. And honestly, when we went to Charleston, that was a huge deal for us just to make it there. It was a huge deal to make it to the regional. And then once you got there, the other teams were playing tight because, they had an agenda to win, and we were there just to have fun, and we really enjoyed it. And before you know it, it was like, holy crap, we're playing for a state championship tomorrow. And then you go to the state championship, and you're playing against Josh Allen, who ended up being a All-American at Alderson Broadus, and Ronnie Olson and those guys, and we got down 10-0, and we thought, well, that was fun. We're going to the runner-up trophy, and we just started making shots, and before you know it, we won, and it was magical. I mean, I don't have any other way to describe it. That was 25 years ago, which is crazy. And then, being here at Morgantown, it's tough. I mean, it's a grind. There's a great teams in Quad A. I mean, it's really difficult. And, how many games did we win that could have went the other way, But I put a lot of that on just our standards and our toughness and what we do in the weight room. Our guys lift throughout the season, and our conditioning in the off season is brutal. And we try to run it like a college program, and it's not for everybody, but the guys who get through it are usually pretty tough-minded and able to flourish, in tight situations.
Yeah.
Coach, along those lines, I got this funny story. So last month, obviously, the football at the football state championships, Maddox Twig, Morgantown High quarterback, I'm talking to him. They had just won the state championship against Martinsburg, and I'm talking to him after the game. The funniest thing he said to me, I was talking to him, I said, hey, well, you're going to take a little bit of a break now after winning that? He goes, heck no, I've got basketball practice at 8 a.m. the next day.
Right.
You couldn't give Maddox Twig a day off after winning a state championship? Come on, Coach.
That is not Dave Tallman's rule. That's the SAC rule. You need to take that up with them, which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
You saw that game, and you saw, that he was in a full body cramp.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to be at practice the next day, or he's got to get 14 practices in instead of 5. So
wow.
I'll just leave it at that. That's not a Dave Tallman rule.
Yeah.
I can assure you of this. He probably shot 2 free throws and went home that day.
Yeah.
We checked that box, but that was a cool experience. Those guys walking into practice, the rest of the guys gave them a standing ovation.
Yeah.
What a magical thing, for our program. Coach Beiser and I are very close and work well together, which I think is a huge part of our success.
Obviously, you as a basketball coach and program has had success in the last decade since you've been there, but in the last decade since you've been at the school, man, there have just been so many teams, programs, athletes come through those hallways, and you're in the physical education program there at the school as a teacher, so you probably see all those athletes every single day for the past decade, man. Just what has it been like to be involved so deeply in athletics at Morgantown High School for the time that you have been, just deep down?
Well, I think it starts with first of all, the players, obviously, the athletes, the type of kid that we have at the school. I mean, not only are they great athletes, they're great students. I can't tell you one player that I know that has any academic issues here, and our school is not easy. It's a top-rated academic school in the state, so they're very well-rounded. You get a heck of an education and everything. But second of all, I think the coaches working together is such a huge thing. I grew up as a coach's kid, and I know that's not the case everywhere. You may have a baseball coach in a kid's ear trying to get them to come do a flex day during basketball season, or things of that nature. And here at Morgantown High, we all work together. We let these kids flourish in the season that they're in, and even in the June period in the off season, Coach Beiser and I don't make our athletes go to basketball practice in the morning and then football. We try to stagger our days and things. So I think a huge part of that is having coaches that, one, work with each other, and two, pull for each other. We're all there and we're supporting one another. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Coach, we said earlier that we are on the line here again with Coach Dave Tallman of Morgantown High School, the boys basketball head coach, who's going for his 5th state title this year. The one thing I want to ask, so you've won 4 already, 3 in a row. You've been to the finals another time to finish as a runner-up. Every team is kind of unique in their own little way. The team you have this year, are they comparable to what some of the more successful teams you've had in the recent years since 2016, basically?
I would say this team's completely different. Our 2016 team, I could run the beeline offense. Those kids could read each other, and we were very half court minded. And then like with Sharon's crew, we were more pressing and things, but we could still execute at a high level. This team is, like I said, young. So really I've had to kind of pull back the curtain a little, pull back the playbook a little bit. I can't have, Michael Jebby asked me one time, how do you guys run all these sets? It's amazing. And I said, well, this year's the type of year where you got to be able to execute at a high level. So, I can't run 40 different sets. Maybe we get really good at, 8 to 10 of them or something like that. So, and our presses is, kind of the same, or we haven't really done what we're doing this year with the pressing situation. This is more of a West Liberty kind of Kim Caldwell type, approach, just because we have so much depth. And, to be honest with you, GW, like I said, it's tough. Spring Mills, these teams are really good. if we just go head-to-head with them and play in the 40s or 50s at the state tournament, I don't think that's advantageous to us. So, we're trying to play a different style and wear on people's legs. You got to play 3 games in 3 days this year. So,
wow.
Let's use our depth and see if we can't use that as, an ace in the hole and try to steal one.
Coach, what I'm really interested in is, like you said before earlier, you came in during 2014. The same year, Coach Joe Schmidl was hired over at University High, so you guys have kind of gone through your runs together. Joe obviously had his success with Cade Matheny and that bunch and won a state title. Since you guys became both head coaches, basketball has kind of taken a step up to a higher level in this county than it had, for a while. 2 questions here. How has your relationship with Coach Schmidl kind of developed over the years, and the way that you guys have produced good quality basketball? I know that was the plan, but could you see that coming when you first arrived in 2014?
Well, I didn't know Joe at all. When I took the job, and actually we got hired, I think, the same day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Only the same year. So, I didn't know him at all, but, our relationship's good. We talk we talk a lot. Joe and I there's no, obviously we're competitors and want to beat each other, but, off the court, Joe and I get along really well, and try to help one another as much as we can. We try to work together with, off-season events, and then our holiday classic we have every year. They've been in it about every year, so there's no drama between Coach Schmidl and I by any means. He had that group. With Caden and KJ. They had great players. And they were really, really tough to beat. One of our best wins was when we beat those guys in the sectional that year, and they ended up winning the state championship. But I think since then, we've done well against them, but our relationship's been great. And I know he's a retired teacher now, so he's a full-time basketball coach, which I envy him for that. No, everything's been great with Joe, and our games, no matter what the talent is, those games are always going to be a battle.
Is it the coaching that's just kind of helped the basketball programs get to that next level? It's hard to pat coaches on the back, but the success that both of you guys have had, how much of it is coaching and how much of it is maybe you guys just brought some different ideas into the program?
Well, I think it's there's so much that goes into winning. Let's start with, the parents. I can't speak for him, but I know our parents or our players are, the support they give their kids and everything is amazing. Driving them all over the country for AAU tournaments and, our tournaments in the summer and everything. And to be honest with you, we don't have any issues with parents complaining or any of that stuff. We don't deal with it, and we haven't had any issues. So that's a huge part of winning. And then how about all the resources these guys have in Morgantown, the Nate Smiths, the Jawan Statons, the Ronnie Everharts now, I can go on and on, Mitch Martins, and, go on and on, Leroy, and all these guys. It's amazing the resources they have. So if you want to be good in Morgantown, you can be good because you have great trainers and things around. And then at Morgantown High, our guys lift with Coach Sean Beiser, who's a genius in the weight room, and he gets our guys right. And like I said, we lift you around. And so there's so many pieces that go into this. But I think a lot of those things I talked about, I don't know if they were utilized or, what it may have been in the past. But I think, we've built the program, and we look at every aspect of it, including what they're doing in their off season and, when they're in the weight room and all that stuff. So I think that's all vitally important.
I was trying to get you to take a victory lap there, Coach, but
I don't need. I say this all the time. If you see me, at Kegler's eating some wings or something, somebody comes up. The only time I'm going to talk about our program or our successes if somebody else brings it up. Once I I work as hard as I possibly can, and but I'll never pat myself on the back. But when I get out of here, I like to spend time with my family and relax, and I'm not one of these people who goes around and toots my own horn for sure.
Well, I tell you, you're talking about the parents not complaining when you're playing 12 kids in the first quarter. That's that's a pretty good avenue for parents not complaining, right? I mean, that's a pretty good situation there.
Well, I'll tell you this. Like yesterday, we brought up Trey Floyd from our JV team. He's very, very talented, and it's he's our 14th guy now, and he got a dunk in the game. So that's our 14th guy. You know what I mean? So the talent is crazy. I was joking with Adam Hinkins after the game. I said, "Can I have an A and a B team?"
Right,
I tell my dad all the time. I said, "Dad, if you had my JV team, or even some of the kids I have in team sports class that played freshman and JV for us that don't play anymore, like our baseball guys," I said, "You would be dominant in single A." And I mean that with all my heart. My hardest part of the job is, telling these kids that they're not good enough to get on the floor, because they're good enough to get on the floor at 98% of the other schools in the state. So, that's something that eats at me. But, we can only play 5 at a time. So.
I've been curious about that because candidly, I've substitute taught for Dave Tallman before in his gym class as a substitute teacher, and it's like I see some of those kids playing basketball that I know that aren't on the team, and I'm like, dude, these kids could play for like 95% of the teams around the state. It's kind of crazy. So like that just speaks to the depth of basketball talent, not only in Morgantown but just at the school specifically. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, even like in the off season, this is no cut on anybody else, but our freshmen and JV teams beat a lot of the varsities and all the summer and fall league stuff. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. I mean, there's small communities. I lived in a small community. I mean, I grew up in a small community. I get it, but that is, I always say it's like we need a double A or a single A school in Morgantown sometimes for these kids, and it's hard. It's hard when you have 1,900 students. And I tell them, if you make the team, you're one of 14 kids out of 1,900 that are on the varsity basketball team. So that's a heck of an honor.
Not a bad problem to have, right?
Yeah. No, it's not a bad problem to have, but it is stressful because all these kids work their tails off, and you'd love to give them some more time.
Hey, Coach, we want to thank you for your time, man, and for dropping some knowledge, and appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can have you back on for the state tournament.
Sounds great, guys. Anytime. Let me know. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks Coach.
Man.
Appreciate it. That was Coach Dave Tallman, head coach of the Morgantown High Mohegans, and Michael, they are currently 10-0. They just put up 115 points the other night.
Yeah.
They are number 3 in Class Quad A. I always want to say Triple A.
I know.
They're Quad A now. Do they have, Coach Tallman, sounds like he's pretty confident. Do they have the goods to make another run at a title this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. Once you get down to Charleston, it's a completely different game almost, no matter what level your team is at. Like he said, especially this season, the Quad A teams are going to have to play those 3 games in 3 days. It rotates every year. Sometimes you get a day off. Sometimes you get 2 days off. Right? So, but this season they're going to have to go 3 and 3. And when you think about a team, like we said, that can play 12, 13, maybe 14 guys, like he said, in the first quarter, you get down on that floor. It's a little bigger. It makes you a little more tired. They absolutely have what it takes. It really sounds like what Dave is also kind of alluding to. Now to that point is just so important for them to hone in on their game plan, hone in on their experience a little bit from those younger players, and really, just clean up a little bit of the things that can propel them to some of these bigger games against these bigger opponents. So
I really like Coach Tallman's story. I mean, he's a West Virginia kid who cuts his teeth in Washington D.C. And like you said, that is just a historical, powerful basketball conference. Game planning against Kevin Durant. Comes to Morgantown 2014, and the thing that really stood out to me, the story that he just told, his 14th guy on the roster is dunking the basketball.
Yeah, and
that is amazing.
Yeah, I actually saw a video of that. I think somebody that he did their football season, he's doing their basketball season as a videographer. He put a video up of that, and I was like, man, this kid got up with no problem. It was incredible. And yeah, it's a little. He talked about this team being a little different. He doesn't have a Player of the Year candidate like he's had for the past 3 or 4 seasons. Even before Sharon Young, he had a Nate Adrian and players like that were. I know Nate Adrian wasn't like the super best player on the team or in the state, but he always have had.
They kept getting hurt.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, they would have been like.
He was hurt that year, wasn't he?
Yeah. But he kept getting hurt.
But I mean, it's got to be different. The last 4 years, you had a player that was undoubtedly a Division I talent. Player of the year, first ever leading scorer in your school's history. But now you just got a bunch of good basketball players. There's dudes. No one. They got dudes, but there's it's kind of that discussion between good and great. You know what I mean? He doesn't have one great player, but he has a bunch of good players. So they absolutely have what it takes come March to make a run and lift their 5th title.
Didn't get the chance to ask him, but obviously, we were joking about Maddox Twig. Obviously, Maddox's future is in football. Also plays basketball. You've seen him play. What kind of basketball player is Maddox Twig, who, of course, is a big friend of the show?
Yeah, so I'll say, it might have been the university game, maybe the Park South game. Maddox got in the game and was going to the free throw line, and I heard Dave Tallman yelling, "All right, Maddox, go be an athlete." So he's just telling him to go be an athlete. Maddox isn't going to put the ball in the basket too many times a game, but he's one of those players who you're not going to go through, and it's going to be difficult to go around because he's big, he's strong, but he's also quick on his feet.
What is he, a 2 guard? What's he play?
He can play 1 through 5.
Okay.
He's one of the biggest kids on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to play him at the 4 or the 5, especially in West Virginia basketball. But, I mean, he'll go out there and guard the best player on the floor, the other team, but he'll go out and he's got that football IQ when it comes to playbooks and play. So he's not going to run the wrong thing. Like, he's not usually doing in the wrong spot. There was a play against, maybe it was UHS, where he set a screen and came on a roll, sealed his guy off, got the pass from the guy that he set the pick for, and laid it right up. So, I mean, he can play, but and when you have 13 or 14 players, he's probably 7 or 8 off the bench too. Yeah. So he absolutely has what it takes to go out and impact a basketball game.
Real quick, what else is going on around the area in high school basketball? Austin Porta is a name I keep hearing about. This kid. This kid can't be stopped. What's going on?
Yeah, Mon County, like we just talked about, obviously MHS, UHS, great basketball programs, but there are 2 other basketball programs in the county that are taking off, and Trinity is one of them, sitting at 11-1 right now. They only won 5 games last year. They were 5-16 a year ago, and now they're sitting at 11-1 in a really good spot in the region in Class Single A to make a run and try to make the state tournament. But like you said, Austin Porta.
Well, when you got a kid scoring 30 a game,
right? He's probably one of the hottest offensive players in the state right now in any class. Like you said, last 7 games is averaging 29.8. He's scored 40 points this year. He's scored 30 points 3 or 4 times. And he's made, I think, 61 threes now this season through 12 games.
He's challenging Honor Huff.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, right. Yeah. He's challenging Honor Huff for the best shooter in Mon County this year for sure. But, when you got a scorer, I asked their coach yesterday, when you got a shooter, someone that's that hot on offense, I mean, what's that like? Do you keep doing what you're doing? Do you make sure that they have the ball in their hand every play? But he basically just said it just makes him look a little better, I guess.
Give me the book on Porter. What I mean, is he a tall kid, fast kid, short kid? What are we
I mean, he's a solid 2 guard. He can probably play 2 or 3. But he's definitely a shooting guard through and through. He did talk about wanting to have the ball in his hands a little more this year, but he hasn't had to because Trinity has some other players. But yeah, he's a solid 6-foot kid.
He's 6 foot. Okay,
he's pushing 6 foot. He got bigger a lot from last year, and he's a good athlete. He played soccer for Trinity, had a decent soccer season, and helped them make a little bit of a run. But
so he can run.
He can run. Yeah. He doesn't get tired. He's good with the ball in his hands, and like I said, he got a little bigger than last year, so he's able to not only shoot the 3, but he's able to get into the lane and finish as well.
And no one can beat the Seabees. What's going on in Seabee land?
Well, they did suffer their first loss last night.
Did? Okay.
Yes, they did, to Toronto, Ohio, but Toronto, Ohio is a 12-3 team as well.
They lost to the Blue Jays? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, right. But you're right, man. CB's 9-1, just their first loss by, I think it was 13 points last night. But they've had one of the best records in Class A the entire season. They have 2 huge games coming up against Trinity Christian, another big Mon County basketball rivalry that's been budding recently. And
that might take over as the new one, right?
It could. I mean, especially in this year, but not only this year, maybe in years to come for sure. But yeah, I mean, these Clay Battelle Seabees, man, it's these football guys, dude. Here they come. They come off of a state title run, to the state championship game, runners-up in Class Single A, first time ever. And they come right onto the basketball court, less than a week later and start this run into the basketball season undefeated.
I heard you talking the other day. Austin Ponceroff, who was one of those football kids, played receiver for the football team.
Yes.
Is averaging 8, 9 assists a game, something like that?
So Braden Ponceroff, Austin is his father.
Braden Ponceroff, I'm sorry.
That's
yes.
okay. But Braden Ponceroff, yes. So he is a really good point guard. He was, I believe he's second-team All-State last year for them. Only averaging about 6 points, but like you said, filling the stat sheet. He averages 8.2 assists. He also averages 8 rebounds from the point guard spot, and he's collecting 2 steals a game as well. Just kind of a Swiss Army knife for them. But
kind of a triple-double kind of guy.
Right. I think he got close to one multiple times last year. The CBs also, they have 3 players scoring double digits. Trey Huggins, if you remember that name.
He's the one that came from 100.
One of the 100 kids, yes. He was a really good defensive back for them, good receiver for them in football. He's averaging 18.8 points a game. Really good shooter from 3-point range. Does a lot of damage out there. They run a lot of good sets for him that gets him open shots, and he knocks them down. Cooper Payton, first-team All-State linebacker from football. He's averaging 12.3 and 5 rebounds. Really, he got a lot bigger from last year for football. I think this was his first football season, so he had to put on a little bit of muscle.
He's a nice-looking kid,
and he's a big kid, but basketball's his sport. So I think that football shape is helping his game a little bit this year as far as just his physicality.
He can push and bang a little bit.
Right, he's a point forward almost if you think about that kind of a player. And then they also have Colt Sandy. Colt Sandy was a kid from 100 High School that finished last year with 17 points and 15 rebounds a night. He's averaging a double-double again this year, this time for the CBs. He's got 11.8 points a contest with 10 rebounds. They're getting contributions from all over the court. I know even Jackson Huggins. Cooper Statler's coming off the bench.
I was going to say Cooper is, he's
and they even have a freshman, Coach Josh Kisner, their head coach. His son Maddox is now on the team, only a freshman, but he comes in and plays 11 to 12 minutes a night and gives them good minutes. So the CBs have everything they need to make a good run. I know in the Metro News Power Rankings and the coaching polls, they're up there in the top 2 teams right now with Tug Valley. Tug Valley is probably the out-and-out favorite right now in Single A.
The difference now, we have to point out, in football, Wheeling Central was Single A.
Correct.
In basketball, Wheeling Central is Double A.
Yes, they are.
So that opens the door up to a whole lot of possibilities for Clay Battelle and Single A in basketball.
And, of course, Wheeling Central also includes the player of the year from last year, Eli Sancombe, 4-star recruit going to Liberty.
Oh, that's Danny's kid.
It is Danny Sancombe's kid, and he's probably another favorite for player of the year right now. He's averaging almost a triple-double per game right now.
Tie all that together?
Yeah.
Michael, we talked about Danny Sancombe earlier because he had ties with Coach Tallman.
It's like we've been doing this for almost 3 months now or something. So, but yeah, that just basketball in Mon County right now is picking up where football left off. You got all 4 boys teams are with great records. Let's see, 19. They got about a 40-4 combined record right now, almost, if I did my math right. So that's just, what can you say? Even the girls' teams are doing really well, too. So really good time to watch basketball in Mon County.
Here's the question now, because it seems like, obviously, since they moved to Quad A and they keep tinkering with the postseason, with the sectionals and regionals, there is no more sectionals now, if I understand. So give me the thoughts here on, is it possible Clay Battelle, Trinity, Morgantown, University, the boys programs can all, under the new playoff format, can all 4 get to Charleston?
Yeah, so with the new format, it is just strictly regionals. You have a north and a south region. When it comes to Single A, it is a little different with the brackets because there are more teams basically.
Okay.
But strictly with Quad A, it is just north and south. And the way that changes is, in the past, like we'll take Morgantown and University and Wheeling Park, for example, right? Those 3 teams are all in the same region. Wheeling Park and Morgantown used to be in the same section. So it was impossible for those 3 schools to all make the title or all make the tournament in the same year.
Okay.
Now, with it being regionals,
now it's a different game.
It's 4, 4 teams are going to make it per region. So you're going to have 4 teams from the south and 4 teams from the north. So it's very possible that you could have, 4 teams that were previously in one region, or even 3 teams that were previously in one section together that can make the tournament now. So it shakes it up a lot based on matchups, based on it's strictly seeding now when it comes through to the regionals.
And they seed the North region, they seed the South region.
Correct.
So it is also possible. So being the old guy that I am, I remember those old sectional regional days where you had Morgantown High and University High, and I remember back in the days when the Fairmont schools were in the same sections and regions. But now it is possible that, say Morgantown High gets seeded number 2 in the North. I mean, they could play Martinsburg, right?
Yes.
And the North region, or they could play a Wheeling Park, or they could play Buchanan, or they could play someone way outside of their county.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
they could the state tournament. Do I have that? Is that how it works?
They could run into Spring Mills. They could run into anybody in the North. In that region. It's all based on numbers. It's not like they're not restricted to playing Preston or Buchanan or University.
Right.
You know what I mean? They might have to play Washington, and then in the next round you might have to turn around and play Jefferson. You might have to turn around and play Spring Mills. Well,
it's quite possible they don't even play University High at all.
Exactly.
Right? That's also a possibility.
You might not see them until the state tournament if they make it there. So it is a lot different. It makes it.
Do you like that? This is something we need to talk about, I think.
Yeah,
because this is obviously new. Is this the first year or second year they've done?
It's the second year.
Second year, okay.
Yeah, and it's gotten that way for every other sport too this season so far. Well, not every other sport, but most sports like soccer. We saw the North and South regions, and stuff like that. I do like it. I think that it makes the that time of the year, like the pre-tournament, postseason, I guess you could say. I think it makes it a little more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
It still happens, but it doesn't happen as often to where in the past, man, teams would qualify for the state tournament winning these games by 70 points. You know what I mean? Like a team like Morgantown would play a team like it happened last year. Morgantown played Preston for the regional co-title and to go into the state tournament, and it was a lopsided game, obviously. And in this new format, I think it's tougher to make the tournament with how we're talking about. You might have to travel 2-3 hours to play the game.
The travel becomes the issue.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, and then the issue is also you're playing better teams. Spring Mills, Washington, Buchanan, Upshur, University, Morgantown. Those are all top 7 teams right now in the coaches poll, and they're
plus your Northern Panhandle teams.
Right,
like Wheeling Park, traditionally is a pretty good program.
100%.
The Parkersburgs, are they north or south?
That's a good question. I believe they are south.
They are the south. Okay.
Yes.
So as long as you advance to the semifinals of your region, you go to Charleston.
Yeah. So in this new format, I think it's to simplify it, it's safe to say that with the new format, there will be more teams every year missing the tournament that we will be like, I'm surprised that they're not there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be harder to really predict, who's going to be the final 8 teams in Charleston now than it has been, in the past, just simply because more teams have the opportunity to play other teams before the state tournament to get there. The journey is a little more rocky. The road's a little more bumpy when it comes to getting to Charleston, no matter who you are now. So,
all right. Michael, hey, thank you. That is all the time we have for today. We thank you for listening in. We want to thank Morgantown High boys basketball coach Dave Tallman for joining us earlier in the show. We want to wish him good luck going for a 5th state championship this season. For now, Michael, filling in for Matt today. You did a wonderful job. Take us home.
I'm learning from the best. Thanks for joining us today on the Extra Medium Sports Podcast, brought to you by the Hotel Morgan. Select a wedding venue where you can host your perfect ceremony and grand reception in one of our 2 magnificent ballrooms. From the restored historic architecture to the stylish, comfortable guest rooms for your party, Hotel Morgan provides an environment where every guest feels cared for in the heart of downtown Morgantown. Now booking 2026 dates in our brand new 8th floor ballroom. And despite Matt not being here today, this is Michael Griffith signing off for the Extra Medium Sports Podcast, where the couches are safe, but the takes are on fire.